Hi, it's me, Brooks. Thank you for joining me on Heal This. I am an energy medicine practitioner, a licensed massage therapist, and an intuitive life coach. And I wanted to share the three most common blocks that come into my office, something that we work through either doing body work or intuitive body reading or life coaching. The number three block is letting go. This is really hard for humans to do. We have a very hard time letting go. Everything in nature, whether it's plant or animal, if it is holding on to something and then it is no longer serving it, it lets it go. It has no problems just walking away and letting it go because it's no longer serving them. Now, that might be a little drastic in some situations, but as humans, we have a really hard time letting go of things that no longer serve us. And this ranges from people to past trauma or just living in the past, something that we want to experience again or have come back into our life, or who we were in the past. So, past energy, or again, something that we have no control of, the future, holding on to this expectation or conditions that we put on the future, which we have no control of. And we hold on to that energy way too long. How do we let go? Because this is something that sometimes people will say, I know I need to let go of this, but I don't know how. And so the number one step is to ask yourself if this is still serving me. Is this still serving me? For instance, let's say you lose a job or you are ready to move on from a job, and those situations have caused you to feel rejection or bitterness or feel angry. And you take all of that energy and it propels you forward and it moves you towards finding something better and creating a better life for yourself, then it's still serving you. But if you have made the moves and you've taken the steps and you are doing something different, you're making that change, you're progressing, and you check in with yourself again and you're saying, does this still serve me? And you're just walking around bitter and angry and feeling rejected all the time, then that's when you really need to let that go. Because if you keep holding on to it, what will inevitably happen is it will just continue to attract bitterness and rejection and anger, because whatever we are vibrating at, whatever our frequency is the loudest, is what we're going to continue to call in for ourselves. And also understanding that if at the root of what we're doing is anger or bitterness, then our fruit is going to be anger and bitterness. If we understand that we are planting a seed in this low vibrational frequency soil, right? So we are planting a seed in self doubt and bitterness and anger, and this frequency of the soil is low vibration. Then, as that seed grows into a plant and it bears fruit, we will inevitably be bearing the fruit of that low vibrational soil. So, and that's all figuratively speaking. So, just understanding that even though you might be letting go of something that was a very negative experience and a very traumatic experience, that does not excuse the behavior of what happened and what was causing you to move forward. But planting the seed in soil of abundance and love and gratitude will then help you to bear the fruit of love and light and gratitude and abundance. So the very first step is still asking yourself, is this serving me? Then once you get to the part where you're like, this is no longer serving me, I use this to propel me forward, but now I just don't need it anymore. I don't need to feel angry about it. I don't need to feel sad about it. I don't need to give it any more energy. So now I want to let it go, right? I want to release it. And one of the things that I think about when I'm releasing something is not thinking about the negative action or the negative behavior, but thinking about what it taught me, what it taught me about myself. Because I don't want to give energy to something that's negative, but what is it showing me about myself, and how can I learn from it and be a better person from this situation so that, one, it doesn't happen again. Two, I don't continue this negative cycle. And also because that is what's actually going to get you to the next step, is understanding that we're all going to have some kind of negative experience in our life. Some of us are going to have massive trauma. And on the other side of that massive trauma, you have the opportunity to be a totally different person. And when you can get to the part where you have survived, then you want to thrive. And by doing that, you need to turn that negative energy into positive energy. And that looks like releasing that negative experience, that negative energy, saying, thank you for teaching me who I really am. Thank you for teaching me how strong I am. I forgive you, because forgiveness is always for you. It doesn't mean that you excuse the behavior. It means that you are basically releasing that energy to that other situation, person, trauma, whatever it is, and you're letting that energy go. And sometimes we do this with kind of like a ritual where we write it down, maybe we burn it, or maybe in a guided meditation, we speak it out loud. Maybe we blow it into a bubble and we send it off and get it out of us. So however you need to release something, sometimes that's singing or shouting or screaming, or really just activating that throat chakra, which is your truth center inside your body, and really releasing those negative energies and those negative emotions that are trapped inside of you, and releasing them and saying, goodbye. I release this from my body. I no longer need you because you are no longer serving me. And then this is step 3. Once we release energy, there is a space there to be filled. And if we are not intentional about how we fill that space, it will just get filled anyway. So we are always intentional. It's just sometimes we are not mindful of our intention. And that intention would serve you best if you are filling that space with a very high frequency vibration, such as love, gratitude, abundance, all of the things that cause us to feel joy and fulfillment. All of that is very high frequency vibration. And so what I mean by that is it might look something like, whenever those emotions or those memories come back up, we would say, I'm ready to release this feeling of bitterness and rage. And I'm ready to receive gratitude and love and patience and joy. And so it's something that we constantly are trying to work through. And that's all normal. We're all working through that. It's not a one-time deal. It's a constant reminder that that energy is fluid. It's constantly flowing, and it's not linear. It's something that we're constantly working on. So once we work on releasing it, and then we have the intention of calling in and receiving and filling it with positive and uplifting high vibrational frequencies, then we also need to shift our focus. So this is the last step, and this is the step where most people get really stuck. I'm letting this go. I'm letting go. I'm letting go. I'm letting go. But what you don't understand is that by thinking about and feeling the let go constantly, you are actually still in the energy of it, and you are still putting your energy towards it. So once you go through the steps, and this doesn't have to be all in the same week or the same month. When we let go of something, it's a process. It's just that once you've gotten stuck, we really need to evaluate what part of the let go process you're in. And so if you've gone through all these other steps, you've asked if it's still serving you, you've released it, and you have you've named it and you've released it. You've said goodbye, thank you with gratitude and forgiveness. And then you are calling in new intentions and replacing those old feelings with this new intent. Then now you need to shift your focus. You have sent out into the universe this intention of feeling love and gratitude and abundance. So now you need to do the things that bring that into your life. Sometimes that's something that new that you're going to have to start doing. Maybe you've always wanted to learn how to ballroom dance, or maybe you've always wanted to learn how to crochet or paint a picture or garden. That's when you can look up in your local community. Are there classes being offered? Is there something that I can do that's new that will bring in that new feeling of energy that's exciting and something that I can start to learn so that I can really focus on those new intentions I want to bring into my life? And maybe you don't have to do something new. Maybe you already know it. It's just really putting your focus into that. If you really love your work, then focus on that. Don't focus on the part that you're letting go of. You've already sent it out. Source knows, the universe knows that you are letting go and you are calling in. And now it is that time that has to pass for a little while. So that is why you want to shift your focus to all those positive energies. Now, when I'm talking about letting go, and maybe you've lost someone or a pet, or there has been a very huge loss in your life, whether it's a person or a pet or a job or whatever it is, I'm not saying just get over it because we don't. So I'm never saying that. Grief and mourning look different to every single person, and it takes time. And I've had major loss in my life, and I remember feeling like I needed to speed up my grieving process because I was sad. And there is no timeline to the grief you're going to feel or the sadness you're going to feel. And you're going to feel moments of pure happiness and joy. And then all of a sudden, you're going to feel that loss again. And that is completely normal. And what I would say about that is when those times come in and you're sad, feel them and remember and have joy that you get to have the memories, because sometimes those are the only things that keep coming back, right? Or those little moments that kind of make you sad, but it's also nice that you still get them. There's no right or wrong way to grieve and let go of that pain that comes when you have a massive loss. I think of it as if we actually felt how sad and how hard it was to lose someone or a sweet pet the way that I know some of us have, if we felt that all at once, I feel like we would just combust, you know? So I feel like it's a lot of grace that we are able to feel it on different levels throughout different times. And so I'm grateful for the grieving process in a way that is at our own pace. And I have been taken down to my knees in grief, and it is wonderful to know that on the other side of grieving and letting go, that there's relief and joy. So number 3 is letting go. Number 2, boundaries. Number 2 is boundaries. Oh my goodness, boundaries. The thing about boundaries is that we are so familiar with saying no as being a boundary. This is going to take up too much of my time, too much of my money, too much of my energy, too much of my focus, whatever. So you can say no. But there's so many other parts of our life that are boundaries that we're not acknowledging. So I have it in 4 different categories: time, words, energy, self. Our time is pretty easy to understand. Everybody's time is valuable. We only get time. That's it. Like, we only have time here on this earth. So we only have enough time in the day. We only have enough time in the week. So planning our time and being very intentional with our time is what we have to do to get what we need done and to take care of ourselves. When someone wants to infringe on our boundary of time, we need to be the one that says no. It's really, really important. For some reason, some of us have a really hard time saying no about the time, or just saying, hey, yeah, I can do that, but I can only be there for an hour. I have to, stop at an hour and I have to leave. And that's okay, because you have to be true to yourself. And if you're setting the boundary, then it's your job to keep the boundary. So, time, words. We have to remember that our words have meaning and they affect others and they affect ourselves. Sometimes we're saying something and we just really didn't even know we felt that way. So, understanding how important our words are and the boundaries that we have with those words, to remember that sometimes we cross boundaries by saying certain things. So, words. Okay, energy. Energy is anything we are giving our focus to, our energy towards. Sometimes I'm sitting somewhere and I'll be just constantly thinking and feeling, and it's all external. It's not about me. It's about I'm thinking about other people, and I'm worried, or I'm putting my focus on them. But I really have to call that back. I have to call that energy back. I have to put a boundary there and say, I can't do that for hours and hours on end, because it's taken away from all of the other energy, focus, time, words that I need to give to other people or to myself. And that brings me to number 4, self boundaries. Wow, this is the one. This is how I explain it. If you think of yourself as being an 8 out of a 10, and what I mean by that is we all have this perception of ourselves. We all think of our value in a specific way. So let's just say you are thinking of yourself as being an 8 out of a 10. Your value is at an 8 out of a 10, being the highest value ever of anyone. But you always let people treat you at a 2. Then what you really think of yourself is really a 2. Once you set the boundary at what you know your worth is, you will never let anyone treat you any less. So let me just go over that again. Self boundary is what you think of yourself. A lot of us think of ourselves according to what others think of us. So we are thinking and learning and understanding ourselves by what other people's reactions are, what other people's words are. I mean, even on a really positive scale. For instance, if you do something really well and you really don't think of yourself that way, but you have 20 people tell you, "Oh my gosh, you do this so well." Then maybe you start thinking, maybe I do this well. I didn't know that I was a really great whatever. But you wouldn't know that unless someone was giving you the feedback. So, but if you take that in a negative direction and you just listen to the negative things, or you only see the negative things, then you are diminishing your worth. And then if you allow people to treat you less than that, that's really what you think of yourself. So we need to raise that to a 10 because you're a 10. So, I mean, it's done. Done. You're a 10. And I will add, if you constantly let people cross your boundaries, you are betraying yourself, because when you set a boundary and you say, don't cross the boundary, and then you let someone cross the boundary, and then you go back to letting them do that over and over and over again, you're betraying yourself, and you'll feel it in your vibration. You'll feel it. You'll feel like that feeling of worth keeps getting diminished. And that's what I mean when I say we gauge what we think about ourselves according to what other people do and say and how they keep crossing the boundaries. Because you're saying, don't do this, don't say this, don't take up this much amount of time. And then they do. And then you're like, it's all right, it's not a big deal. But it is a big deal, because you are worth so much more, and you need to know that. So I'm telling you that you're worth more. Your boundaries, your time, your energy, words that are spoken to you, words you speak about yourself, and how you feel about yourself, those are all boundaries. And those are all things that you need to know have to be held at a very high standard, especially to get everything that you want and everything that you deserve in life. You have to really know that you're worth it and you deserve it. And that leads me to the last thing. The number one block that comes into my office that I see all the time. Can you guess what it is? Self-love. Loving yourself. Nobody's going to love you like you love you. It is so important. It is the most important part of manifesting and calling in the life that you want. Self-love. Number 2, boundaries. And the number 3, letting go. They play right into self-love. Once you let go of the old energy and the things that are holding you back, and you replace them with more positive things, and you keep going forward and leveling up, then setting the boundaries becomes so much easier. You just know that you're important, everything that you're doing is important, and that you need to continue to be on that path. So you're, again, I always use that term, you're spiraling upward. Self-love starts with understanding who your true authentic self is. You're not being anybody else. You're not being someone else for everyone else or anybody else. You're being yourself. You are tuning in and turning on to who you are. What brings you joy? What is calling you every single day? Nature is calling me. I want to be outside. It is calling me to be a teacher. It is calling me to be a healer. It is calling me to be a creator and a builder. So listening to that, really listening to who you are, what brings you joy, and what your passions are and what are calling you. And those things are going to lead you to your purpose and who you are as your true authentic self. So once you can really understand that who you are at your core, and a lot of times we've lost this along the way. When I was a little person, I really wanted to be a teacher. And I'm really sorry to all of my sweet friends who would come over and I would make them play school, and my brother too. Yes, I just wanted to be a teacher so bad. And I was like, I would create these forms for us to do school. And I just had this whole classroom, and they would come over and I would make them play school. And I'm so, so sorry. So please forgive me. I hope you've let go of that old energy. So really listening to who you are at your core. And a lot of times that's reflective of when we were younger and we kind of forgot, maybe we've forgotten what it is. if you really loved being in nature and now you never go outside, or maybe you really loved to build things or build things with your hands, and now you don't ever, touch any kind of woodworking or crafting or anything. So really listening to who your true authentic self is, what is calling you, what brings you joy, and then just sitting with it, really loving yourself, really having a love affair with yourself. Do the things for yourself that you want to have the love of your life do for you. Do for yourself what someone does that's very nurturing. Make soup or make some bread and sit on the couch and curl up and watch a really good show or read a great book or listen to a podcast and really just sit in the vibration of loving yourself, feeling the frequency of knowing who you are, who your true authentic self is, and loving yourself. Really knowing who you are means you spend time with yourself and not just working or meditating. This is like, you're going on a walk or you're just home by yourself and you're like, I really like myself. I think I'm pretty awesome. It's just being able to sit with yourself and feeling okay and feeling good and feeling happy and loving yourself and saying it. I love myself. It really makes a difference. We all talk about self-care, and that is definitely a part of self-love, taking the time to really take care of yourself and obviously doing the things that are necessary, like making sure that you're healthy and going to the doctor and taking care of your physical body and your mental health and your emotions, but also really, truly taking time to do those kind and loving and nurturing things for yourself. Anytime I think about this and I struggle with it, I think, what would I tell a friend? You really need to go get a massage and have someone really care about you. You really need to go get your toes done and just do something really awesome for yourself. So those are self-care things that we can do for ourselves that are showing ourselves self-love. Being introspective. So really taking that time to ask yourself, checking in with yourself. How am I doing? What am I feeling right now? Breathing. And really just taking a moment to do some affirmations. And I always put my hand on my heart, take a deep breath in, I can feel it, and just saying, I love myself. I know it sounds weird, but it works. So doing it until you really feel it and you really believe it. And that's the practice. You can't fake it till you make it. In this situation, you can't fake it till you make it because vibrationally, your cells and your whole self, when you're faking something. So it's not about faking it. It's about practicing it and practicing it in little doses. And also thinking about it this way. If you have love for someone else, if you have children or nieces and nephews, or if you have a pet, or if you have a sweet friend or an aunt or your parents or whatever, I'm trying to think of someone that you have a lot of love for, that you truly respect, and that you would drop everything and go help them or nurture them or care for them. Think about them for a few minutes and then transfer that feeling for just a few seconds to yourself. What would it feel like if I felt that way for myself? So I show up for myself. When I say I'm going to do something for myself, I do it. Because I cannot vibrationally feel that way for someone else if I don't feel that way for myself. I trust myself. I trust my intuition, and everything that we have in our own vibration is what we're calling in. Those top 3 blocks, everybody experiences them. We all have situations. And even when we've mastered it somehow in like a really small form, something else will just come up and teach us a new lesson. Those are all things that we're all constantly practicing. But those are just some ideas I had for you. So let go, set boundaries, and love yourself.